nuclear material and facilities, and to grant your inspectors access need to verify. Do you welcome this draft resolution from US?
Well, nobody, as a matter, I think, of principle, the Director General has not welcomed or criticized initiatives of this type. This is in the realm of member states. They decide whether they want to put forward a resolution or not. So we will see this resolution has been or will be tabled. I don't know if it has been already, but will be tabled, and it will be considered by the board.
Question over there. Yeah.
Hi, this is Igor Guillo from Folha de São Paulo, Brazil. I'd like to ask you, Mr. Grossi, is it at this point possible to say that Iran, since you didn't have access to any of the facilities since the attacks last year, complete access, I say, is it possible to say that Iran is or is not going forward on developing the nuclear weapon?
Well, I think here we have to be very careful, because we have never said that they were doing that. And if we didn't say it at the time where we had access to the facilities and we were expecting, I would say we would not be in a position to say it now. The problem here is that whilst in the past there were deficits and there were things that they were not addressing and questions that were not answered properly, to that you have to add now the fact that we have a gap which is almost exactly 1 year, because the 12-day war started on 12th or 13th of June last year, and ever since, almost 1 year exactly, we haven't had access to these crucial facilities. We have just been able, as you know, to inspect a few things, the Bushehr nuclear power plant and some other facilities, but not these ones. So I think what is important is to establish very clearly the fact that Iran is in full compliance with its obligations under the NPT, because that is the way to ascertain and to confirm that there's no diversion of nuclear material or any other illicit activity.
Francois.
Hi, DG. Francois Murphy from Reuters.
Hello.
I was just going through your statement to the board. We have
Yep.
the video so far, and you're saying it's very important that we re-engage with Iran.
Yeah.
You're saying this to the point when Israel and Iran are firing missiles at each other, President Trump telling them not to, while at the same time maintaining that it's possible to get to some kind of ceasefire extension. Do you feel like things are moving in the right direction? In the direction of re-engagement, as you're saying? I mean, it feels like it could be quite.
Well,
a long
we
way
are
to
following.
get there.
Yes, thanks, Francois, and I think your point is valid. We seem to be in the midst of, I would say, a complicated phase where attacks seem to be picking up again, and of course, rhetoric is again being more hostile. But we've seen this before, and we've also seen moments where things tend to cool down a bit. What we continue to say, my message must be the same. We need this engagement. This engagement can take different forms. Of course, when you have active shelling or bombing, inspections are not possible, but there are many things that can be done. And the important thing is this dialogue, which has been essentially broken, and which, of course, will always be complicating things even further. So, as you know, and I have said it to you and to other colleagues of yours, I have sporadic contacts with the foreign minister and others, but basically the channel of communication is broken.
Question.
Hello, DJ Grossi.
Hello.
I have two questions.
Mm-hmm.
The first is regarding to the snapback, and now that the snapback mechanism has been activated and the United Nations resolutions requiring Iran to suspend enrichment and
Yeah.
the processing have been reinstated, will the IAEA only verify safeguards obligations, or will it also verify Iran's compliance with the suspension requirements? The first
Well,
question.
we would need to verify that, but we are not doing it at the moment. That is in principle, but and it's part of the conversation we have been having. We are not able at the moment, by a combination of these two factors. On the one hand, there is military activity from time to time, and Iran has not re-engaged with us.
The second question goes to the Iran and United States negotiations. Can the United States and Iran decide on the duration of the restrictions on Iran's nuclear program, or on the status of nuclear material without technical assessment of the IAEA? What would be the agency's role in that case?
For sure they can. I hope they won't. Because, I mean, two countries can agree to whatever they want, but I think even they themselves would recognize that an agreement without proper verification is an illusion of an agreement. It's a piece of paper, and you don't know whether the terms of it are being complied with. So I think there is recognition that the IAEA must be playing a very, very important role.
We have a question in the back.
Yes, hello, Janaina Figueiredo from Brazil.
Hello.
You said, you said that the situation is very complicated, and these past few hours we saw very terrible attacks in the Middle East. And your position is defend diplomacy, dialogue. Is the same position as the Brazilian government, the actual government. Mm-hmm. And President Lula talked about it with President Trump a few weeks ago, and as in the case of Cuba, offered some kind of facilitation from Brazil, some kind of participation. I would like to know, what do you think about that, especially an eventual Brazilian participation as the things are getting worse and worse? Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think this is very important. I think global leaders, and in particular the president, of the importance and prominence of President Lula, of course, has a tremendous contribution to make. The voice of the so-called global South, in which the voice of Brazil is in the BRICS, Brazil is in all the great structures of political consultation and coordination. So I think that the fact that there is a manifestation of a will to help for us is very important. And Brazil, as you know, has been very supportive of the IAEA historically. So perhaps there is something that can be done. I am always open to a conversation with him or with the Brazilian government in case they feel this could be conducive to the solution of this problem.
Question here.
Is there a mic, Andy?
Yes, there.
Namaskar, Rafael Grossi. This is Pallav Bagla, science editor, New Delhi Television. We met many times.
Yes.
Quick question. We've seen attacks on Bushehr. We saw attacks in Baraka. We saw attacks on the Ukrainian plants. Atoms for Peace, now your nuclear energy plants, which are civilian plants, are themselves becoming targets for attacks. Does that worry the IAEA? And will the newcomers not come to nuclear energy because of these plants themselves becoming targets? And there's a second question for you also.
No, that is a very valid point, and we've been addressing this. Of course, it worries us a lot. It doesn't only worry us, we act on it, as you know. We don't just tweet about something. We go to places like we have been doing for almost 5 years in Ukraine, at the front line. I was just informing the Board of Governors that our experts have been asked to monitor demining of the area where reparations must be conducted. So the role, the technical, the mediation role of the IAEA is obvious and is very, very important. That being said, we don't see, for now at least, a direct influence between these episodes, which are highly regrettable, and medium and long-term planning of many countries in the area of peaceful uses of nuclear energy. There is a very strong trend which is driven by other factors which have to do with energy security, technological considerations, and so on, which make most of the countries to, or all countries to, of course, in a certain sense, continue to rely on what the IAEA can do to prevent nuclear accidents.
I had a second question as well. Can I? We haven't met after India passed the Shanti Act, which is a wide-ranging act on nuclear energy and a change on the liability regime.
Yes.
And India now wants to ramp up to 100 gigawatts of nuclear. What is your reaction as Director General of the IAEA on the Shanti Act and the new liability
Well, I
regime?
think it is very positive. Why I say this? Because naturally, India is traditionally an important nuclear power consumer, user, developer, and now it has an energy policy which is very well known, on which the nuclear factor is poised to increase quite importantly. This means that we are going to be working with India much more. I have been visiting your country, as you know, and I will return. So all of that for us is good news. And by the way, not because there is more nuclear. It's something that goes in the direction of diversifying the energy mix of the country, making it more reliable. So these are all very positive elements.
Nice to meet you. I am Woo Seok-min from South Korea's Yonhap News Agency.
Hello.
I have two questions, one about South Korea and the other one is about North Korea. So South Korea is pushing to build nuclear-powered submarines and to acquire the right to enrich uranium and reprocess spent nuclear fuel for peaceful purposes. So what are the IAEA's key concerns about that move? And South Korea is expected to conclude a separate safeguard agreement with IAEA regarding that project. So I'm wondering how discussions are going on between the two sides.
Well, we have, as you know, I was in Seoul just a few weeks ago, and I was discussing with Foreign Minister Cho Hyun these things. One of the things we were discussing was the Korean intention and project to introduce nuclear naval propulsion for submarines. As you know, in order to do that, countries that are party to the NPT need to, and having a comprehensive safeguards agreement, have to notify the IAEA, and for this to happen, there has to be a special arrangement with the IAEA. So we are in the phase of the kickoff, if you want, of that process, which is a highly technical process where our safeguards experts meet with Korean experts, and they start looking at what will be necessary. But this is very early stages because, as per the Korean government own statements, there is not a decision yet as to the type of technology and a number of modalities which are necessary for us to start working together on that. So we don't have concerns. We have work to do, a lot of work to do together. And your second question was?
Don't you have any proliferation concerns regarding that move?
Insofar as you have an agreement, a very solid agreement with the IAEA, there shouldn't be any proliferation concern. This is why, if you want, in the legal scheme that we have, you need this is a specific agreement. It's not any agreement. It's not a template that applies to other countries like the comprehensive safeguards agreements or the additional protocols. This must be very specific because it will depend on the type of submarines that you are going to be building, how they are going to be designed, what kind of fuel there's going to be on it, what kind of infrastructure onshore you're going to have, shipyards, docks. I mean, it's a vast effort. It's going to take a long time, precisely to ensure that there is no proliferation. What is the proliferation concern? The proliferation concern is basically that when you have a nuclear submarine with fuel that has a lot of uranium, highly enriched or low enriched, this is out of inspections for a long time. Obviously, because it's a military vessel, and it goes out in missions, and it's, of course, out of sight, view, or inspectors' work. So we need to find ways, and there are technical ways, to ensure that the amount of of uranium that left harbor is the same when it comes back.
So, Alexander, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung.
Hi.
Hi.
Alexander Haneke, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung from
Hello.
Germany. May I get back to the Iran talks and the role IAEA can play there? Because you said last week that your sense is that they are close to a framework. How can we imagine the role IAEA plays so far? Are there any constant contacts? Is there any talks where the agency is included?
Well, we have been discussing a lot about this. The nature of this current dialogue is different. But up to February, we were directly involved, and the type of involvement of the IAEA is related to the activities that are going to be taking place, the facilities that have to be checked, and the famous material that is there, as you know. So I think there is clarity in everybody about the space, the field that the IAEA needs to cover. Then everything will depend on the type of agreement, and this is not on my, on my tray. It's for the United States and Iran, if they come to an agreement, to determine.
Oh, hello, DG.
Hi, hello.
Hi. No. Setsuko Inaki, Nippon Television.
Yes.
I just want to go back to Asia once again.
Yes.
On DPRK.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a famous meeting taking place right now. Can you update us with the situation in DPRK and your concern again?
Well, as you may have seen in my last reports, a few of them, we were referring to an additional facility at Yongbyon that had certain features that led my experts to indicate that they could be part of a new enrichment facility. And as you may have seen the other day, the leader Kim Jong-un published photos of himself and said that this facility is there. Of course, I don't have inspectors there, hence I wouldn't be able to confirm that. But this is exactly what we have been saying, that we had this information, we know the features, we now, there are many ways in which we can, even not being there, to know what this place is for. So Mr. Kim Jong-un himself said that the objective of this is to enhance dramatically, or I don't know what kind of words he used of that type, that they want to increase in a very significant way their arsenal. And obviously this is something that runs counter to several United Nations Security Council resolutions, and it's something that we would rather see in a different way. The IAEA, in any case, will continue reporting.
Good afternoon, Mr. Grossi.
Hello.
Gabrielle Cristel Galang of Manila Bulletin. Last year, when you visited Manila,
Yeah.
you said that this is the right moment for the Philippines to push for nuclear energy. But
Yeah.
now there are external challenges such as the Middle East conflict, including Philippines facing corruption issues. Historically, our nuclear power plant has been abandoned due to alleged corruption, among other concerns. Now, we have a target of welcoming nuclear projects by 2032, which is only a few years ahead. Do you still think it's the right moment for nuclear investments in the Philippines? And what could IAEA's role be here to shield nuclear developments from political concerns and conflict?
Well, thank you very much. This is one of the things I discussed with President Marcos when I was in Manila in November. I think one needs to separate, at least from the perspective of the IAEA, as you may understand. Our interest is to see to it that when the decision, a firm decision, is taken in the Philippines to move with a plan, they have all our support in terms of technical factors, safety, security, even design. We have also discussed the possibility of providing advice in terms of the bidding process. So there's a range of things where the IAEA will be able to contribute. Other things related to governance, corruption, etc., is for Filipinos to work on and to get right.
We have a question over there, please.
Hi. Thank you. Federica Di Sario from the Parliament Magazine in Brussels.
Hello.
Two quick questions.
Yes.
So the first one is, we have seen some reports last week about Baltic countries and Poland being in talks with the US for deploying nuclear weapons on their territory. Was the IAEA involved, and do you support this move? Or do you have some concerns? Yeah. And the second one is actually about your bid to become the next UN Secretary General. What do you think that the United Nations is struggling with at the moment, and how do you think that your future leadership could help?
Thank you very much. Well, on the first question, we are not involved. We are not a nuclear weapon organization. These are matters that are in the realm of the defense policies of these countries. We look at this from the angle of non-proliferation. And Poland and the Baltic countries are members in very good standing of the NPT. So they are not developing themselves nuclear weapons. Of course, there is talk about deployments and about new ways in which nuclear weapons would be deployed in Europe, but this is not something that it is part of our work in this regard. On the other thing, I think it's something that I have been able to address in different ways. My impression, and maybe even some of the things we are discussing here today with you, prove that we are in a world where conflict is multiplying, and one regrettable thing to see is that the United Nations is absent from the resolution of these conflicts. It needn't be so. This is my conviction. I think our work in the IAEA shows that there is a way, that there is an alternative, that multilateral platforms can play roles. They do not have a magic wand to solve everything, but certainly things can be done in a much better way. And my style of leadership, if I make it there, will be very similar to this: engagement, presence on the field, and trying to bring, even belligerents together. This is what we have been doing. One thing is to say it, and another thing is to do it. And we are doing it here. It can be done in New York as well. I am convinced.
The question.
Hi, Shabana Begum from the Straits Times in Singapore.
Where
Hi,
are
Mr.
you?
Grossi.
Sorry?
I'm here.
Sorry.
Hi. Just last month, Singapore has announced that it will undergo INIR Phase 1 next year, and you've also visited Singapore last year as well. So based on your experience with Singapore and the teams and the various partnerships with Singapore. Which are the areas, which are the 19 milestone areas
Yes.
do you think that Singapore might need to work on further?
Well, the case of Singapore is a very particular one because Singapore has all the technological base, institutional knowledge, and capacity to move into nuclear pretty fast. And it's been a political choice not to integrate nuclear energy into its energy mix. We have been having discussions. I visited the country last year and even before that. And in my conversations with the different officials I saw there, I have come to the conclusion that there is an active consideration now, in particular in the area of small and modular reactors. So basically, the milestones process that you refer to, for those that are not familiar with it, which is the set of steps and concrete guidance that the IAEA can help any newcomer country to follow, so they have a smooth nuclear program. The adoption of the milestones approach would be the wise thing to do, and I believe that a country with a high degree of institutionalization like Singapore would do that. I'm very positive about the prospects there, and we are keeping our contacts, as you said, at technical level. We are sending missions, peer review missions, and trying to prepare well the country for the moment where it decides really to host one NPP.
Financial Times.
Hi, Martha Muir from the Financial Times.
Hello.
I wanted to ask about the increasing interest in nuclear because of energy demand caused by AI and data centers. I'm asking because in the US, tech giants, venture capitalists, and the Trump administration are trying to build new plants and SMRs as quickly as possible, but in some cases they're advocating that safety procedures should be watered down. And I'm talking here about mass firings of NRC staff and plans to turn on SMRs as soon as next month without unified safety standards and processes for storing waste. So I wanted to ask, are you at all concerned that the AI boom could kind of lead to a watering down of nuclear safety standards?
No, I'm not concerned about that. I think that in terms of the safety standards, the safety procedures, the security guidance, the technical requirements, these are not changing. What we see, and I take your point that there is a discussion about how the regulated... I don't see you. There is a discussion in many countries, including in the United States, but in other countries as well, where they are discussing about the regulators, the regulatory approach, and sometimes there is a simplification. And people believe that the fact that there is talk about making regulation more agile equates to watering it down. Any licensing process would not allow this to happen. So I believe that one thing is maybe the political public discussion, and one different one is how this is going to happen in reality. What is true, and we have been working here at the IAEA, is that regulation must also adapt to an evolving business model. It is different to regulate small modular reactors which are produced in series, maybe far away from where they are going to be deployed and used, than licensing a static, huge nuclear power plant that might take, I don't know, you come from the EFT, Hinkley Point. I mean, you had many years there, and licensing and pre-licensing and so forth, and so on and so forth. So this is the discussion which is going on. But I think it's a very valid point, and there is, and we welcome that. We welcome this discussion on the regulation of nuclear in 2026.
Question in the back.
Thank you very much, Dieter Reinsch, Press TV Iran. DG Grossi, I want to ask you regarding the reaction of a statement that the Iranian mission here in Vienna issued this morning before the start of the Board of Governors meeting. They were pointing out the 17 waves of attacks on nuclear facilities in Iran. And in this statement, they write that with this new expected resolution from the US, the Board of Governors is turning into an instrument of blaming the victims of these attacks. And as the Iranian side, also the envoy in Vienna criticized several times that you are not condemning the aggressors of these nuclear attacks. So they say, under your direction, the Board of Governors is turning into an instrument of the aggressors to blame the victims. What do you say to this statement from Iran?
Well, I have nothing to say. This is a political reaction, and the Iranian ambassador and the Iranian mission is in their own right to have their view about all of this, about my reports, about the. Obviously, I do not share that view. My view is in my reports, what I believe that they should be doing. They take issue with that, and this is, I would say, this is a normal process at the board. I think at the end of the day, and this is something I have been repeating, there must be a political dialogue, there must be a diplomatic agreement. This is what we believe in and what we are trying to support.
Thank you. Final question from the AP.
Thank you very much. This is Stephanie Liechtenstein reporting for the AP.
Yes.
I would briefly like to refer to Ukraine and the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, where an incident occurred 2 days ago during which Russian military personnel was injured. Can you give us an update? What happened exactly?
Well,
why they got injured? What caused the incident?
Yes. This comes in the wake of a ceasefire that we negotiated with Ukraine and Russia. It took 2 months. It was very complicated. It was in force, and within a few hours, Russia informed us that the group of deminers, that before this, what are these ceasefires for? Is that so that the lines, the high voltage lines, can be repaired. Before doing that, you have to demine on both sides of the control line or the front line, and the Russians informed us that the group that was demining was attacked with a drone. That a drone attacked them, so that they were putting that they were stopping the activity. So what we did throughout the weekend, I was personally and my team engaged in consultations with both governments, trying to convince them not to abandon the ceasefire and to observe it. And the reaction we got is that they would, provided the IAEA would also be present at the demining. So before we were present at the repair phase, preceded by the demining. Since there was an incident at the demining, they said, okay, we do it, but please send your observers, monitors, experts to the demining. This is a very sensitive issue, as you can imagine, because there's open fire there. So we were negotiating a number of security guarantees for our people, who are very brave, very courageous. They accepted to go, and the demining started yesterday, and we had a fingers crossed, a very positive first day, and this is going to continue during the next few days until we can start the repairs.
And I'm guessing we don't know where the drone came from. That
No, we were promised some additional information. But this is part of a pattern that has been established, and since you follow the agency very closely, you know that when these episodes happen, there is a cross accusation, and the agency, of course, has no way. And I am addressing in part what somebody else said in terms of condemning, when you condemn one or the other. The IAEA is not a political commentator. When we say something happened, it must be based on our own independent verification of that. We try to provide as much information as we can so people can draw their own conclusions. So I thank you all very much for the interest, and we'll be seeing each other. Bye-bye.